Teriella is forcefully sent to the Leonhardt Empire as a wife for Emperor Lievenfell, fully expecting to meet her doom. However, instead of death, she finds herself entangled in an unexpected fate. As she navigates her new life, both she and the Emperor uncover astonishing truths about themselves, secrets that could change the course of the Empire. What begins as a forced marriage soon turns into a battle of survival, power, and destiny. Teriella holds on to her mother's last words like a promise. Live a long life. When you grow up, everything will be yours. I'll make sure you walk on a flowery path, my favorite. She believes in them, clings to them through every hardship, waiting for the day life finally rewards her patience. But reality isn't so kind. One day, King Lupian calls for her. His order crushes any hope she has left. She must go to the Leonhardt Empire as an empress candidate. She refuses. She always knew her father would throw her away one day, but hearing it out loud still cuts deep. He doesn't care. He talks about the continent's chaos, tsunamis, disease, blocked routes. Travel is dangerous, and if he wanted to go himself, it would take months. Then he looks at her siblings. Her older sister's arm is in a sling, her younger sister has a scar on her cheek, and her older brother's leg is wrapped up tight. He says they're all hurt because of her. She knows that's a lie. She remembers every wound, every moment. Pushed down the stairs, dodging a hit that landed wrong, throwing up a chair to block a kick. Self-defense. That's all it ever was. Her family has been trying to kill her for as long as she can remember. The king doesn't listen. He grabs a cup of ink and throws it, black stain spreading across her dress, dripping onto the expensive carpet. She clenches her fists, swallowing her anger. She warns him, Karajan, the heir and the queen's son, will be furious. He actually cares about her. But the king just tells her Karajan left 2 days ago to investigate an epidemic. A plan set in place from the start. His voice is cold, firm. He reminds her of the Emperor of Leonhardt, a ruthless man who executed half his ministers the moment he took the throne, a feared drunkard. He says she must go because she has her mother's face. It clicks instantly. This isn't about alliances. This isn't about her future. He just wants her dead. Her sister smirks, saying that if she had died as a child, none of this would be happening. The memory rushes back. She was 6, deathly ill. Her mother had traveled across mountains, across lands, searching desperately for a cure. That's why she fought to live. To honor the woman who gave everything for her. And now, the very people who once called her family are tossing her aside like she's nothing. She doesn't even get to argue. Guard sees her, dragging her out of the palace. She thrashes, but it's useless. She's shoved into a carriage, a rickety, miserable thing that groans with every step the horses take. The journey stretches on for months. Exhaustion and quiet resentment fill every day. The Empire's grand palace finally comes into view. She exhales, mind already set. Other princesses before her have come as empress candidates, only to be sent back home. If she follows the same process, arriving, settling into the annex, resting from her journey, then meeting the emperor, maybe she'll be rejected too. She whispers the plan under her breath. It's the only way to escape. She must make him turn her away. The carriage jerks to a sudden stop. She barely has time to react before stepping out, only to freeze. A striking young man stands before her, golden eyes scanning her face with an intensity that steals the air from her lungs. There is no mistaking who he is. Lievenfell von Leonhardt. The emperor himself. Her plan shatters in an instant. Teriella arrives ready to fail. The emperor is cruel, feared by all. If she plays this right, she'll be sent home before her father's plan unfolds. But the moment she steps inside, everything goes wrong. Lievenfell studies her, confirms her identity, then orders her to look at him. Their eyes meet, and his next words send a jolt through her. He asks her to marry him. Her mind blanks. Did he really just say that? He repeats himself, perfectly calm. She stares, trying to make sense of it. This isn't how it was supposed to go. She asks if he's serious. He smirks, amused. Her stomach drops. She was meant to be rejected, not engaged. Before she can protest, he turns away and orders the wedding preparations. Her heart pounds. Too fast. She forces a smile, trying to reason with him, but he cuts her off, asking about her accommodations. A servant mentions the annex. Liebenfell frowns and immediately demands she be moved to the main palace. Her hands curl into fists. He isn't listening. His gaze shifts to her carriage, then her luggage. His expression darkens. He asks if Lupien is struggling financially. The answer is no. He frowns at her belongings, calling them old, as if she packed trash by mistake. Her jaw tightens. Even in exile, her father's neglect shows. She exhales, knowing she can't refuse him outright. She needs a plan. Later, she is surrounded by luxury. Warm water, soft hands, endless servants at her call. She sighs, body sinking into the heat. Then her mind snaps back. No. She can't enjoy this. She isn't here to be pampered, she needs to escape. Her mother always told her to marry a good man, and Liebenfell is far from that. Before she can think of her next move, a voice interrupts her. Our girl's mind is blank. He knows. No one in Lupien has ever questioned her. No matter how many times she's injured, she always heals, but no one ever wonders why. It's as if they refuse to see what's right in front of them. The truth is simple, she carries divine power. But how did he figure it out? Did someone tell him? Does he have spies watching her? Liebenfell smirks, clearly enjoying her silence. He tells her she's taking too long to admit it. She refuses to react, refusing to give him the satisfaction. Suspense is fun, after all. But her heart pounds as her mind races. Has he known all along? What else does he know? Ignoring her thoughts, he moves on as if this is just another casual conversation. He talks about the state of the world, how everything has been falling apart for over 20 years. The world tree, the very thing that once kept the continent alive, is gone. Ever since then, nothing has been the same. Droughts burn the land. Floods wash entire cities away. Wildfires spread, forcing starving animals to attack villages. The seas rage, tsunamis swallowing ships whole. Crops refuse to grow. People starve. Nations crumble. His voice is calm, steady, but his eyes gleam with something she can't quite read. He asks if she understands now why people cling to the hope of a saint appearing, why they pray for a miracle. She hesitates. She freezes. The temple? The high priest? Unlike in Lupien, Leonhardt actually has one who can recognize sacred power. Her heart pounds. She has made a terrible mistake. She should have escaped the moment she arrived. Now, it's too late. She narrows her eyes and accuses him of threatening her, but he only smirks, amused. A threat? No, he's simply stating the facts. The world is desperate, and if people find out what she is, they will demand her sacrifice. He's doing her a favor by keeping it secret. Her mind races. She glances around, quickly calculating. Maybe she can knock him out and escape. Before she can act, he speaks again, his voice calm. He never planned to take her to the temple. If he did, the high priest would have already been summoned to the palace. He has no interest in exposing her power. Something isn't right. She studies him closely. When they first met, his hair was black. Now, in the dim candlelight, it's white. Her breath catches. A horrifying thought creeps in, this might not be the same man she met earlier. Before she can react, he moves. His hand goes to his coat, pulling it off. Her stomach drops. They were just talking about saints, why is he suddenly undressing? She instinctively takes a step back, but he catches her wrist, his grip firm but not painful. He lifts her hand and presses it against his chest. The warmth of his skin sends a jolt through her, her mind spinning as everything she thought she knew begins to unravel. Her eyes lock onto the strange mark near his heart, a pattern like tree branches twisting beneath his skin. Something stirs in her memory. She's seen this before, in ancient texts, in the desperate prayers of the priests when the world tree vanished. The moment it disappeared, the world crumbled. Crops withered, floods and droughts became relentless, and people cried out in despair, believing their god, Semula, had forsaken them. Now, standing before her, is a man carrying that same cursed mark. A chill creeps down her spine. This isn't just about marriage, power, or even her secret. She has stepped into something far beyond her understanding, something that could alter the fate of the entire continent. The palace buzzes with excitement as word spreads like wildfire. Emperor Lievenfell is taking a wife. Some scoff in disbelief, convinced it's just another rumor. Others speculate that the bride must be the fragile-looking princess from Lupien, the one who arrived recently. Whispers follow her wherever she goes. Aristocrats murmur about her delicate beauty, wondering if a strong breeze might carry her away. Servants take note of the extravagant meals being delivered to her chambers. Even high-ranking maids, who usually serve only the noblest of ladies, offer to attend to her. No one understands why, but there's something about her, something that draws people in. Whatever the reason, one thing is certain. The once empty Empress's seat now has a rightful owner. Her new title comes with endless gifts and a grand residence, Damask Palace, located near the sacred grounds where the world tree once stood. But despite the honor, she is placed right beside the Emperor's chambers. He tells her the truth without hesitation. Every night, the seal on his body resurfaces, and his hair turns white. She stares at him, struggling to process it. How has he hidden this for so long? He chuckles, completely unfazed. It's simple. When he was just a prince, no one cared enough to look at him. But the moment he became emperor, suddenly, the world saw only what they wanted to see. He admits he's used his secret to his advantage before, but it hasn't always worked. That's why he needs her. The words send a chill through her. The Peridiac experiment, an event so horrifying that everyone involved was executed, regardless of their status, lingers in her mind. If anyone uncovers the truth, the entire continent will turn against the empire. War will be inevitable. Yet here she is, expected to treat him every night in the same room. If divine powers can heal him, why not call a minister or the high priest? His answer is simple. They both have something to hide. He promises to keep her secret if she keeps his. She demands to know what he would do if she told someone. His response is blunt: he would die. Unmoved, she questions how he can trust her when they've only known each other for 2 days. More importantly, how did he even know about her divine powers? He shrugs, claiming it was just a hunch. She doesn't buy it. Only her mother ever knew the truth. A new thought creeps in: did he know her mother? He denies it without hesitation. His body simply reacted when he saw her. Only a saint can heal him. The explanation feels empty. Then, with an unsettling finality, he states that from now on, they share the same fate. Helping him means becoming his accomplice. If anyone finds out, death is certain. Hiding her own powers is already dangerous enough. With an amused glint in his eyes, he jokes about discussing execution so early in the morning. Then, he presents another option: she can go to the temple, reveal herself as a saint, and be sent back to God's side. She falters. That choice isn't as simple as it sounds. Running away seems safer. But before she can dwell on it, he cuts through her thoughts. Once people learn who she is, she won't be able to hide. The entire continent will hunt her down. It's a shame, he sighs, because their partnership could have been beneficial. But in the end, the choice is hers. She wrestles with the weight of the decision. Then, with a knowing smirk, he tempts her further. As Empress, she will hold more power than she's ever imagined. She could even make her Lupien family kneel before her, humiliating them as they once humiliated her. He holds out his hand, inviting her to walk his path. A dangerous game is unfolding, and against her better judgment, she finds herself drawn in. The youngest daughter's jaw drops. But he's over 70. Her brother snickers. and half his wives mysteriously died. A thought suddenly hits him. What if Karajan comes back and demands Teriela's return? One of the most powerful magic wielders on the continent, he cares about her more than his own life. The youngest waves it off. If he asks, they'll just say she left willingly. The dead can't argue. The king sighs, wiping his mouth. Karajan won't return soon, he's too busy with the epidemic investigation. By the time he hears anything, the funeral should already be over. In Leonhardt, deep in the palace, Emperor Lievenfell leans back, shirt undone, exuding effortless confidence. His toned, perfectly built frame is impossible to ignore. Teriela stares, blinking rapidly. She mutters to herself, still not used to the absurd reality of having an infuriatingly handsome husband lounging in front of her like it's the most natural thing in the world. Lievenfell smirks, eyes glinting with amusement. You're thinking something strange. She sits up straighter, feigning confusion. Who could you possibly mean? Maybe there's another princess here? He chuckles. You, obviously. Your face is red. Huffing, she crosses her arms. I'd blush if I put my hands on anyone's chest. With a pointed look, she declares that from now on, he should keep his shirt on, it's too much of a hassle otherwise. She accepts the reality of their presence, but that doesn't mean she dreads it. If anything, she looks forward to the spectacle. Their discomfort will be her entertainment, and she'll sleep soundly knowing they have no choice but to endure it. Lievenfell watches her, amusement flickering in his eyes before he acknowledges her strength. She takes it in stride, casually attributing it to her mother's teachings. Confidence was never optional, it was a requirement. He considers her words, expression unreadable, before making an unexpected remark about parental trust. Something shifts in his gaze, something distant, something buried. She recognizes the weight behind it but doesn't press. Instead, she lets the moment pass as he makes the final decision. The Lupien family will be there. Satisfaction hums through her as she grants her approval. His smirk deepens, and with a single command, arrangements are made. The wait is over. Weeks later, the grand doors of the Leonhardt Palace swing open. Teriela's fingers drum lightly against the armrest as her family enters the hall, their expressions carefully composed. King Lupien sighs dramatically, shaking his head as if he has endured great suffering just to be here. His children stand stiffly behind him, their gazes flickering around the grand chamber. Lievenfell watches them with mild amusement, waiting just long enough for the tension to settle before speaking. He notes that waiting a few weeks for an audience isn't much of a hardship. After all, the journey to his empire took 3 months. Surely, they understand patience better than most. His words, light-hearted yet sharp, make the royal siblings glance at each other. He goes on, pretending to admire Lupien's efficiency. Their engineers must be truly gifted to have sent them here so swiftly. Perhaps, if granted the opportunity, they could share their advanced technology with the empire. His smirk widens as he muses that he had expected the wheels to fall off somewhere along the way. The carriage had certainly looked ready to collapse at any moment. Yet, somehow, it kept moving. Unless, of course, the poor condition of the vehicle served a purpose. The king stiffened slightly, sweat beginning to form at his temple. Teriela suppresses a smile, watching her father's growing discomfort with delight. Lievenfell leans back, tilting his head as if in thought. He waves a hand dismissively, almost as though the subject is a mere joke. But then, his expression shifts, his golden eyes sharp and unreadable. A careless mistake would be one thing. But sending a future empress in a broken carriage? That isn't just an oversight, it's outright negligence. Did they really think so little of their own blood? More importantly, did they think so little of the empire she was meant to rule? Silence blankets the hall. The Lupien royals stand frozen, the weight of the emperor's words pressing down on them. Teriela watches them with mild amusement as they glare at her, disbelief written all over their faces. Arms crossed, she leans against the vanity, waiting for them to finish their little tantrum. Her brother's voice slices through the air, demanding an answer. Is she really marrying the emperor? She rolls her eyes. He must have forgotten their father's strict orders to stay away until after the audience. Impatiently, he repeats himself, but she barely spares him a glance. Where's Kara-jan? If she had to deal with unwanted visitors, she'd much rather see his face. A sigh follows. He couldn't make it. The epidemic investigation drags on, more casualties than expected. With that settled, her sister shifts back to the real question. Is she really becoming Empress? A tilt of the head. Weren't they the ones who sent her here to marry him? What's with the shock? A smirk tugs at her lips. Did they expect her to die? What a shame it must have been to receive a wedding invitation instead of a funeral notice. A fist clenches. The thought of her as Empress makes no sense. A shrug. That's the beauty of it. Once she has the crown, there will be nothing she cannot do. She studies their expressions, waiting. Anything else? Silence. As expected. They never admit when they're wrong. Instead, they scramble to twist the situation in their favor. Her sister flips her hair, a sickly sweet smile plastered on her face. It was all part of the plan. Without their help, none of this would have happened. Teriella raises a brow. Oh? And here she thought they had thrown her to the wolves. Apparently, she should be grateful. If they hadn't sent her off, she'd still be eating their leftover bread. A hand pats her head condescendingly, and her sister smirks. No other older sibling would be so generous as to hand over such a golden opportunity. Our girl stiffens. These fools. Have they forgotten whose palace this is now? Her fingers twitch, but she forces herself to stay still, glancing at the maids nearby. They stand silently, heads lowered, but she knows they're listening. A slow smirk tugs at her lips. Maybe it's time her dear family learns exactly who holds the power now. A servant hurries in, clutching a scroll with an urgent message. Before she can speak, her brother snatches it from her grasp, his eyes gleaming with triumph. This must be it, the moment her joy crumbles. But as he unrolls the parchment, his smug expression vanishes. The color drains from his face. The wedding is set for next week. Silence swallows the room. Teriella meets their wide-eyed stares, a slow smirk creeping onto her lips. What would happen if she told the Emperor they tried to kill her? Uneasy glances are exchanged. One of them scoffs, trying to brush it off. No one would believe such a ridiculous claim. She tilts her head. Have they forgotten where they are? This is her kingdom now. The servants are everything. They stand in her favor. The weight of her words settles over them like a storm cloud. Their stiff postures, the nervous flicker in their eyes, it's delicious. She doesn't let them recover. Kneel. Ask for forgiveness. They hesitate, pride and fear warring inside them. Her voice turns ice cold. Their lives are more important than their pride. One by one, they drop to their knees. Shame and anger twist their faces, but they obey. Later, in the palace hall, she lounges beside the Emperor. He leans back, watching her with amusement. Ever since the Lupian royals arrived, she's kept them on edge. He wouldn't mind joining in on the fun. She shakes her head. If he gets involved, it becomes political. He chuckles. Whatever pleases the princess, he will do. Her gaze lingers on him. Why is a tyrant like him so gentle with her? His lips curl into a sly smile. If it troubled her so much, why did she take this long to ask? She sighs, studying him. Everyone else around him shifts like shadows, changing every night. Is there anyone else he treats this way? His expression softens. No. Her eyes narrow. Not even Jerry? Before he can answer, the doors swing open. Jerry steps in, bowing as he hands over a document. The nobles want to meet her before the wedding. She frowns. There are too many. She can't possibly see them all. The Emperor waves a hand, dismissing the matter. Cancel the meetings. But Jerry grins, mischief dancing in his eyes. If she doesn't meet them, she might become a social outcast. Like him. The Emperor's eyes narrow, but Jerry continues, unbothered. Allies in high society are valuable. And, of course, some nobles only pretend to be righteous while secretly feeding their power through illegal means. Like the drug trade. The Emperor's gaze hardens. This isn't something she needs to worry about. But Teriella simply shrugs. No, it's fine. An empress should know these things. A slow smile tugs at his lips, a flicker of pride in his eyes. She's sharp, exactly as she should be. He shifts the conversation, asking about the wedding. The preparations. The grand hall. Why not see it for themselves? The moment they step inside, everything falls silent. The hall is breathtaking, each detail crafted to perfection. Soft light spills from crystal chandeliers, casting a warm glow over polished marble. The scent of fresh flowers lingers in the air. There's a quiet elegance to the space, something almost sacred. Then, the doors open once more. A figure enters, his steps measured, his presence commanding. Eliho, the high priest. The one with the greatest amount of holy power. If you want to see a part 2, ensure to drop a comment requesting for it and don't forget to like, subscribe and share.